What is going on, guys? Welcome to episode 2 of the Will I Dunk video series. In this video we're going to cover the 3 things that I think are going to stop me from potentially making progress in my vertical jump, but also my plan of attack on how I'm going to address these things, and also be talking about my plan of attack on how I will be tracking my progress along the journey. So number 1 thing that I can foresee stopping me from making progress are my injuries. So I have quite a rich injury history, which is not something anyone should be proud to say, but from top to bottom I have had quite a few injuries. I'll try to be brief with my summary. So from the top, my shoulders, I've had rotator cuff injuries to both my shoulders over the years. First one on my right shoulder from doing bench press incorrectly, so learn to bench before you actually bench. That was 18-year-old Elon being dumb. And I also hurt my left shoulder doing human flag, which I don't know if I was doing it properly or not, but I think my joints weren't meant to do such difficult things like human flags. Moving down, next thing's probably my lower back. I had a disc injury that I sustained. I basically woke up one morning after a period where I was playing a lot of basketball, doing lifting with a high frequency and high intensity, and I basically couldn't bend over. I couldn't tie my shoelaces. It was that painful. It was right before a semi-final as well, and I just couldn't play. I tried to play, tried to loosen it up, played like 2 minutes, and I just couldn't. So that sucked. It took like around 8 to 10 months to get me back. Moving down there, I hurt my hip doing power cleans incorrectly, and that really was niggling me a couple years ago. It's more or less under control now. Doesn't really affect me too much, but I am dealing with a hip kind of bruise at the moment that I got during basketball a few weeks ago, which is still bothering me a little bit, but nothing too bad. My knees, I've had jumper's knee on both legs, just through playing a lot of basketball and not being particularly, resilient genetically. I've also had Osgood scleratus on my right leg growing up. So that's when there's a mismatch between I'm no expert, but it's a mismatch between the rate of the bone growth and the rate of the muscle growth. So when that's mismatched, essentially it leads to imbalances, especially during your growth spurt. So my right knee looks kind of munted, which hopefully you'll be able to see there. It's kind of internally rotated always, whereas my left knee just looks like a normal knee. Moving down after that are my ankles. So I've been playing basketball for 16 years, give or take, and I've had countless ankle tweaks, injuries of varying levels of severity over the years. My worst and notable one that I remember is my left ankle. I always wore high top basketball shoes, but for some reason I decided to buy some low top KDs. I was online, people were saying, man, Kobe's are awesome, low cut shoes are the way to go, they strengthen your ankles. I'm like, I'll give it a go. Third game in, the stupid KDs that I don't even remember which ones they were. They were the ones that looked like a soccer shoe. But I landed on someone's foot, and I swear the shoe like amplified it and just shoved my ankle joint into the ground. But my foot was still. It was like, it wasn't Gordon Hayward, but it felt like it to me. So I had to get it in a cast right away. Took time off work, and that again took me somewhere between 6 months to 10 months to get it back to a point where I could run on the basketball court again. So that's my injury history. Unless I manage these injuries, I'm not going to be able to do sustained training and make progress. Second thing, my genetics. Without making too much of a generalization on an entire race of people, I'm going to make a small generalization and say that Asians are just not very athletic. If you look at the fastest, track athletes, sprinters in the world, they're very, very rarely Asian. Although my dad was quite athletic, I think he split his genetics kind of 2 ways, where my brother took all the fast twitch fibers. He was always quick, a fast sprinter. Played out on the wing in rugby. He's just quick, naturally fast at sprinting. Whereas myself, for some reason, I was good at long distance running. I was never a fast sprinter. I'm not naturally explosive, and that is something that would get in the way of me making progress on my vertical jump. Number 3 is my occupation. So I work a full-time office job, and that involves a lot of sitting, a lot of hunching over, a lot of using my mouse like this, a lot of not staying mobile, and it's basically not really in line with trying to be as athletic and explosive as possible. So long hours doing that. After work, I have to do a lot of hip stretches to to counter the effects of sitting. I try to do a lot of shoulder mobility stuff at work, but it's all kind of counter what I'm trying to achieve with my jumping. So it requires extra work on my part to counter effect the negative effects of my occupation. But the good thing is I get money, so I get to live and eat food, so I can't complain. Plan of attack. So take these obstacles, these limitations, we're going to shove them to the side. What am I going to do to track my progress, to make sustained progress in my jump training? I'm going to track my training, my flexibility, my injury management, or my injury status, and also my diet/weight loss. So for each of these things, I'm going to give myself a score out of 5. So from 1 star to 5 stars in terms of how well I did in that regard against goals that I set for myself. Now what those goals are, I will go into further detail in future videos, how I want it to go. So without further ado, I'm going to give myself now a rating for each of these things. I'm going to average it out, and then after that, we'll get into the jump video and the technique breakdown. So for training, I give myself a 3 out of 5 this week. Stretching, 4 out of 5. For my injury management, 3 out of 5. And for my diet, 4 out of 5. And as I mentioned before, I will be going into further detail and explaining how I rate myself in each of these areas in the upcoming videos. So part of how I arrived at that 4 out of 5 rating for my diet is how my weight loss is going. So I'm just going to put up my morning weigh-ins for each of the past 7 days right now. So I started at 72 kg, which you would have seen in last week's video. And you can see throughout the week, I actually was quite strict with my diet because of, starting up this series. And you can see the weight just dropping off. I was sticking to 2,500 calories a day. So I think the weight is dropping off a little faster than I would like. So I'm going to up my calories a little bit this coming week. So overall, I get a 3.5 out of 5, which isn't bad for the first week. Ideally, I'm going to keep my weekly progress rating between 3 and 5. And hopefully if I can do that, then I'll be able to make sustained progress in improving my jump. Breaking down the jump for the week, my run up is still slow and I'm kind of changing direction a little bit on my third to last step. My arm swing has improved since last week, but I should be taking a more aggressive leap into my final 2 steps. Right before takeoff, I realized that my knees are a little forward, which means I'm not driving through my hips as much as I could be. And also my lower back is a bit bent, and my core doesn't look particularly tight. Managed to get an inch above the rim and kind of grab it a little bit, but I feel like my body is kind of under the rim. So I'm jumping a little bit too close to the hoop, and if I took off a little earlier, that would probably be better. Landing was decent. I do absorb the force of my hips, but I absorb it basically all with my hips as I kind of squat down afterwards. And I need to learn how to take small steps to dissipate the force. And that's going to wrap up the video, guys. Ponyo appreciates your support, so if you think she is just, oh my, one of the cutest dogs you have ever seen, please comment, like this video, and subscribe to the channel. Until next week, choo choo.